Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is a special Patreon episode with my patron, my father, Bruce Bolton. We talk about his cruise and all the other fun stuff. We went on in late August. It was fun. You'll hear it. But for me, I'm trying to clean up the show. I have enough interviews that will last me until about November, but this is about also the time people stop really booking podcast interviews. So I'm going to start incorporating like a solo podcast, kind of like this, where it's just me talking and getting used to not having someone to bounce off of. I also want to eventually incorporate you guys, the audience. So like if I'm thinking of eventually buying a $200 a year software called SpeakPipe. That's a low price of your email address, because I might actually personally reply back to you on the question. You can, it's the $200 one, I think it's like 5 minutes you could send me. And I would incorporate like a frequently asked questions Friday, or I'll figure out something more catchy. And yeah, just incorporate you guys and chat, and also just solo ones on like book reviews and business. So if you start seeing episodes other than an interview, it's because I'm trying a couple of things. And I'm going to also try my best to record videos for the solo podcast and upload it to YouTube. So we'll see. It's all an experiment. But yeah, any tips, tricks, or advice that you want to give me, feel free to hit me up on my website. There's a contact me tab. And rest assured, I will read that email or message. I usually read them every week when I'm editing and uploading everything. So if you for some reason want more quicker response, there's my Josh Bolton Show at gmail.com. And that's right on my phone, so I will be seeing it. But yeah, other than that, just looking forward to interacting and getting to know you all better and growing the show in a potentially new and more productive way. All right, less rambling. Let's get right into it. 2, 1. Well, welcome everybody. Today we have my father, Bruce Bolton.
Please, Bruce Locksmith.
Bruce Locksmith, the entrepreneurial YouTuber that actually has way more subscribers than me. But he also begs for everyone to subscribe for him.
In person. Oh, please. Oh, please. And sometimes it takes weeks, but then it happens. And
he breaks them inevitably. Yeah. We recently went on a cruise to Europe, from Italy to like Turkey, back to Greece. And we're going to chat about that because
it's the sanctioned topic of the day.
His wife has spoken. That is all we're going to talk about. So, give us a little about yourself, and let's lead into the cruise too.
Okay. About myself, I am a locksmith by my next career, a locksmith in my current career, and I am enjoying the fact that I'm getting some traction in the YouTube and podcast community. It makes me happy to be able to present things mostly off of Josh's GoPro, but I had a camera on our recent vacation and I used my phone. So many of the shorts that I put up have gotten at least $1.5 of views within the few moments on YouTube, because most of the shorts on YouTube are just mushy, touchy-feely cat.
Oh, you get that? I get anime protagonists with daddy issue problems.
Wow.
And Joe Rogan smoking weed.
I think that tells a bit about what we tend to click on or pause at. Or
I can't figure out shorts just because I don't watch them all the way. Yeah, I keep getting it.
Well, I watch, whether it's a YouTube, unless I'm just completely offended, or which is very rare.
It's hard to piss them off.
Or I listen to whatever I'm watching all the way through. And so I'm one of those ones that you see on the far right-hand side of the scale. It's like listened until. So, but I am looking forward to my next career of being able to go on cruises and review them and give people insights. My current milieu is for those who have not yet cruised. And if you have questions about cruising, I like to inspire people to make the investment that a cruise is affordable and is worth going on. And
especially right now, still with the Corona, maybe not a problem. You can pick up Alan's going on his cruise for $300 per person. Or was it total? No, I think it was $300 per person.
Per person, yeah. And then you're going to have the 150 port taxes, fees, and then gratuities. If it's not included.
At worst, it's going to be $500.
Yeah.
But that's like cruises before the lockdowns. Well, for the same cruise we were looking at was almost going to be like $8-10 grand.
It was that, and the one we went on was purchased in 2020 when cruising was completely shut down. And so many of the rates that we got were exceptional, especially the flights.
Yeah, that was. Although we got economy.
Yeah, economy was painful, and I guess we could segue into talking about the trip itself. But
you're going to hear our dogs just moving around in my room.
They're enjoying their the area. The economy. I'm 6 foot tall. 3 inches away from my knees was the bottom of the seat back in front of me, and I had a bag that I had to put in front also. So I didn't really have much move around leg room, put my feet on either side of the bag, sometimes put my right leg out into the aisle, but it was extremely uncomfortable. It was the shortest night. We were flying up and over Hudson Bay, Greenland, Iceland, and then down into Denmark for our Copenhagen layover of 6 hours. And I think from looking out where I could at the sky outside, it was maybe 4 hours of nighttime that our flight had.
We were literally chasing the sun. It was.
Oh, that was coming back.
Oh, that was coming back.
Yeah, that was coming. That was the longest day. We'll talk about that shortly. Yeah. But yeah, it seemed like the shortest night was just kind of brutal. We tried to sleep in Copenhagen at a lounge that I had rented for us.
Best idea ever. Whoever that YouTuber told you about those, massive props to them.
Yeah. Trying to sit in the terminal for 6 hours would have been just godlessly uncomfortable, because you wouldn't even be able to think about, maybe just relaxing. So.
Well, and the cool thing I was telling some of my coworkers is for the what was $120, $130 to get in. Mm-hmm. They had unlimited beer and wine on tap. Josh made sure to get his $100 in. I was like, Dad, I drank enough to pay for the bill. And yet I still couldn't sleep after having I think it was 6 or 7 wines in and a couple beers. I couldn't sleep.
So yeah, we did some relaxing. Then we got on our regional flight to Venice, and we were on the. I was on the port side, the left-hand side, if I remember correctly, looking out over the Italian landscape. But as we flew into the area, flying the approach to Marco Polo Airport, Venice is right on your right-hand side, the starboard side of the plane. And you can see it because you're just going pretty much almost over it, but just a little bit landward. And it is an amazing sight just from the air. We got off the plane, got our bags, and went to the regional bus service, public transit, and got a ride over. Got to see my first European bird, and it was a western seagull.
Yeah.
Then I got to see my second European bird, and it was a crow.
You're like, well, shit.
It's like, okay, I got those done with. Now I can see something else. Wasn't quite as exciting as the frigate birds down in the Mexican Riviera. Those are like pterodactyl looking things, but hey, wrong continent. So we got into the public bus area, which is in the Piazza Roma. Oh, I got it right that time. And then I had heard that you cannot walk your bags, or it's coming. It may not be fully legal yet, but it's coming, that you can't roll your wheelied suitcases through Venice.
Well, I think it's more for preservation of the
cobblestones.
Yeah.
That's logical. So porters are us.
They take cash if you're ever in Venice.
Yes.
Definitely worth the purchase.
Definitely worth the purchase. And if they say 50 euros, give them 50 euros.
Don't pull
2 sacks of money and hand it to them, because they won't say no.
Well, and the funny part, we thought, because I paid him exactly the 60 euros, and then Mom didn't see it and then paid him like the $60. And we like afterwards, he was like insisting on helping us. I'm like, oh, he's going to give it to us free because we paid him in advance. Nope, he still charged us.
In fact, he asked for 100 euros. I gave him 50.
He actually got so when he was heading back, he was like, because he's like, oh, that guy did 100 euros. He's like, 100 euros, I'll take your bags to wherever. And the guy's like, okay, pulls the money out immediately. I'm like, man, he just started a whole scheme right here.
Yeah, he got us, and now he's going to get him. Wow. Oh, wow. But we inflated the expected currency of, but I have since on my podcast, Corals and Coriolis, have said 50 euros, because that's also been published elsewhere. So
yeah,
if you go to Venice and they say 100 euros, haggle with them, because the real price is 50 euros.
Everything.
Well, this was like 8 bags or something like that.
Honestly, is this him bringing over that bridge?
That first bridge, yeah.
It was, and I was telling this to the one lady I was chatting to the other day. I said it was one of the, if not the biggest bridges in Venice, but it was height and length big.
Yeah.
And wow, like everything's going off right now. Essentially, I told her, I said, yeah, this poor porter, I'm like having to sit there and like help him
vigorously,
and it was all just, I said, other than that, I said, yeah, we paid him and he earned it.
And they said, give me a call when you need to go back. So we did. But I was confused at the end of the trip, and I did not realize that Piazza Roma is the public bus transport. You actually have to go on the People Mover, which is 1.5 euros, not 80 euros. You don't want a month-long subscription. The guy that was looking for money right next to the kiosk said, 80 euros? No, that's too much. No. Helped me by poking the buttons. Then asked me for money, and I said, I just gave it to the porter. Sorry, buddy. But the place you want to go to is Troncheto. And it's right next to the lagoon on the land side. So it would be the southeastern side of the islands. And that's where the private buses gather and then go to where you're going. We had a complimentary cruise tour over to to Trieste, where we were going to launch from. Would we like to talk about Venice before we go on to further, or leave Venice for?
No, that's honestly a lot of people have been asking me about Venice too.
Good.
So,
what was your first impression of Venice, other than the huge bridge?
Honestly, it was just like what me and your wife, my mom, talk about all the time still, is just the culture's so laid back. I said the one that I noted the most is that like people actually are not like hyper and they actually sit and read books. It's just one of those, like, California, you barely have time to think. And it was interesting how more laid back. The architect is super unique to that region. That one and the history really stood out for me.
Yeah, the architecture is a mixture of things, that have come over the millennia. Literally, I think they said the first islands were inhabited and the first pylons were hammered down into the mud in about the 4th century A.D. Because the Huns pretty much controlled the Visigoths and others controlled the mainland, and they didn't know how to swim or row boats. So, it was safe out in Venice. And then all the way up until, if I remember correctly, it's about the 1500s when the Ottomans, those pesky Turks, came and took over for a bit. And they had their influence on the architecture as well. So it was just fascinating to look at all the different styles, from one small brick building next to a mansion that was built, hundreds, if not 1,000 years later. We want to go to the islands, walking through the streets, because that's all you can do, except for little kids who ride their scooters.
I guess our tour guide was telling us, I guess up until 12 years old, only children are allowed to ride scooters for the preservation of the cobblestone reasons. And I was like, oh, well, at least the city was like, children should be children kind of thing.
Yeah. So just walking on the cobblestones, walking over the bridges, watching the traffic of motorboats, gondolas, vaporettos.
Yeah, it was quite impressive how many boats are, I guess, it's universal for the world. Boats are extremely expensive. And our tour guide for the Jewish ghetto one we did said, you don't buy boats, you make friends with boats.
Yeah, because they are that in demand, and the space to park them is completely limited too. So it's just what it is.
Yeah.
So that was so there are a couple of things that we still want to do. We did tour through Canal Regio. Josh and I hoofed it on a very hot afternoon over to Rialto Bridge after many of the shops had closed, but it was still just packed on a Saturday afternoon with people. It was just extraordinary. And then those were the spots that we basically saw. We never made it to St. Mark's Square. We never made it to the far side, never made it to the island. So, I mean, there's at least a week or a month's worth of touring that we could do.
Oh, and like I've told many people, especially when I got back and had to go to work, they said, well, what was Venice? I'm like, honestly, I said, it's the kind of place you can go for a week and you still not see everything kind of thing.
I mean, there are so many palaces, so many mansions, so many museums, so much history. The Venetian Empire, when it was in its height, was producing one full boat a day, which is the kind that can be oared or sailed. And I mean, they were just cranking boats out daily, literally.
Yeah.
Where Canal Regio is where we were staying, and literally where we were in this Airbnb was inside one of the iron foundries that they repurposed for our place to stay. Did you realize that?
I did not realize that until you said that.
It was completely gutted, the foundry itself, and then redone so that it would be housing.
Well, I mean, housing there is so limited. It's truly landlocked now. And then the one lady was telling us they can't build past 4 stories because the weight will break the pylons. and literally sink everything. So
in the end, no big cruise ships can come to Venice anymore. They have a 1.5 euro per day per person tax that is being implemented at this point. So bring cash. If you're staying there, they're going to demand it first thing. And then let's see what else. Porters. Those were the two big things. Many of the mom and pop shops want you to spend in euros. You can use Visa in some places, but if you're going to buy a pair of, somebody told me recently, oh, those are Elton John glasses. I said, I like to think of them as John Lennon glasses, but that's because I'm about 27 years older than you. Anyway, so I bought some glasses and I used euros to do it. Anyway.
But the biggest one I noticed was there were no franchising. I don't know if the rules in Venice or it's just the culture, but the only time I've seen an air quote franchise was there was a like pizza shop at the front of Venice where all the tourists come in. And there was one more in the back where me and Dad walked to. And it was just one of those, I figure either it's the same person running two, or they sold it to a close friend that would keep the same thing. But yeah, other than that, it was mom and pop cash.
Dinner was great, right next to
The river,
the Santa Maria, right next to the Ferrovia. In the what would be the north side, there is a stellar restaurant right in that corner next to the Grand Canal. And we ate there 2 nights in a row. Friday night when we had arrived and Saturday night before we left on Sunday. Just excellent. And the pace, you sit down, if you order a bottle of wine, you can sip on the wine and they bring you bread and things like that. And then you talk some more and then, order your food, and it's unhurried pace. You're just, the big thing is the talking, the gathering, the companionship. And that is why it was so different than the U.S. here.
Well, and the biggest part, and one of the people had to tell us, I think it was the owner herself of that shop. And then Leah added on to it. It's like, yeah, we're not too worried about traffic because whatever we get is what we get. Like, we're not trying to maximize everything.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, both times we went to dinner, near the end, I finally learned, especially with Leah's comments, you're going to sit and talk for an hour. Then, like, around the 45-minute point, they'll bring you your food. But then you're going to sit there another, like, 40 minutes before they even consider bringing you the check. And,
they're not going to hurry you along to get another person in there. I think you experienced that yesterday. And
yeah, with my date, we were chatting. At a certain point, I told her, I'm like, they're really giving us the stink eye. I think we need to get going, kind of thing.
Yeah, which is a sadness, and we wonder why the attention span of Americans is getting to TikTok level.
Well, there's us also just in general.
Yeah.
But yeah. The other thing that was interesting, I was one of those, I saw it, a lot of comments. People were saying that all the social media influencers are going to be a problem with their camera crews and this and that. Honestly, in Venice, there was not that many. I mean, everyone had their camera out and was taking photos. Sorry, you get the raw and real thing. I'm not cutting that out.
People are walking by the canal here.
But in Athens, though, when we went to the different situations, it was there was a lot of social media influencers, and some of them I'm pretty sure they were just faking it for clout. Because I'm like, this. Okay, I feel bad now, but she's not the most good looking of women, and she's standing there, and then like this guy with a $10,000 camera is following her around, and I'm like, you are not making that much money off social media posts to justify this.
This is right in front of the Dinner in the Sky.
No, it was the Coliseum. No, they're not
No, the
Colosseum,
Acropolis.
The Acropolis.
Yeah.
I was like in the back where the red marble was. By the way, if I can ever get my hands on that red marble,
No, dude, you can't.
that would be amazing.
No.
But
That red marble has had millions of feet walk across it. It is so smooth. It is so beautiful, but it's so pitted from the acid rain. It's an amazing sight just to go to that that must have been the south side of the Acropolis.
yeah, that was in the back.
Mhm.
That was cool. But we went to the end of the vacation. So after our Venice and our fabulous food, truly it is worth a trip. Okay, well, it's worth a trip to go to Venice, but definitely for that one place for the food. Then we went to the actual cruise ship.
Yes, we got on our shuttle bus at Tronchetto after the People Mover ride of €1.50, and then pretty much the family along the way passed out, and we had our own seats. So I was just happily clicking away pictures. You could see the whole range of the Eastern Alps, the Dolomites, and I even thought I could see the Carpathians come up and meet the Dolomites, or they just might have kept going. I couldn't really tell, but I was just in mountain heaven, looking at the old crash point where Africa had run into the European soil and then pulled back over millions of years. They say that the Alps in years past were 20,000 feet. That's as tall as Mount Denali in Alaska, and that the whole range, and it was so heavy that it pushed the earth around it down, and that's what's caused some of the valleys. But it's filled those valleys in with that 10,000 feet of rubble, sediment, and so that's an amazing bit of geology there. And believe me, when you see Mount Denali, even if you only get to see like the North Peak as we did, you just look at it up and up and up and realize, where the snow line is, just a little bit into it, that's 10,000 feet. That is as high as the local mountains in this area in Southern California at their highest. And that's just amazing.
It really is.
So that was the trip. Looking at the countryside was as spectacular as the YouTube videos I had seen. Josh had told me, "Why do you watch that stuff? Why is it that you're going to spoil it when you go and see it?"
I'm like, he would obsessively watch this stuff. I'm like, dude, you've already experienced a cruise before we do this.
It's like, no, because when we do the cruise, it'll be my cruise. But I'll at least know some of the things that I'd like to look out for. And like I said, I was so happy to see the Dolomites. And that was great. Because when we flew over them, pretty much whenever we flew, it seemed like clouds covered anything that was land.
Yeah, it really did. And it was just one of those, was also just a humbling experience to be like, I'm this high up that I'm looking at the tops of clouds too. And that was especially the SAS, Swedish airline.
Scandinavian Air.
Something.
Mm-hmm.
It just because they had a front camera, so you could actually see the nose of the plane, but they also had a camera underneath the plane, so you could see what the pilot sees. And it was just, for the longest time, all it was either clouds or darkness. It sounds boring, but it was actually quite fascinating.
Yeah,
I'm sure like a pilot though gets like, oh, yep, that's a cloud.
Well, there's another cloud. Unless they start seeing shapes in the clouds, and then you worry.
Ooh. That's a dancing bear in the sky. That's not good.
Is that possibly a gremlin on the approach? Anyway, so we kept going around the head of the Adriatic Sea, and I thought we were going to go to Molo Passeggeri e Begliari, but in fact we went to Pier 59 instead. So we went around a little bit and came in. and got on our boat. It was relatively quick embarkation. Once I got Wi-Fi and I could show them our Verifly, then they just sent us on our way. One of the interesting things that we saw, it's a month later, but we saw the Crystal Serenity and Crystal Sunshine.
Oh, yeah, the two ships that got confiscated.
Right. And they were sold off. So Carnival has bought one of them for $136 million. And then an independent group bought the other one for something to the effect of like 25 to 50 million. And they're going to use that as a new cruise ship line, private type thing. So
dude, that one sailing cruise ship, the sailboat one, that one would be cool. Did we?
Oh yeah, we were on our way out when we saw that one. Yeah, it's like one of those super yachts that the celebrities have.
No, that would have made their super yacht look like nothing. That was almost maybe a fourth less than our current ship.
Wow.
That was in Croatia, right? The Game of Thrones one?
I think I don't remember, but I think we saw one coming in. Yeah, I don't remember where it was.
Either way, it was a giant ship with these huge sails, and it was just one of those you're sitting there going, like, "My God,
how can this be?"
But yeah, the embarkation was fun. The only like hiccup was they had some coding development problems with their Holland America's app. And so everyone like me, like I bought this internet package beforehand. Why is it not working? Kind of thing. But yeah, honestly, the whole experience of Holland America, though, those poor ladies handling at the front, they were just popping B vitamins like it was candy. The amount of stress they were enduring. But yeah, it was, other than that hiccup for me, the internet, it was smooth.
Now, did you feel that Holland America is an old people's line?
Oh, no, not at all. Especially when we were doing stuff, the amount of young couples, I'm sure most of them, it was like an anniversary or like a serious get to know you. But like, no, it was more, I would say it's more mature cruising than old people cruising.
Okay. Yeah. And that's, you know, as my daughter had also said at 26, she said, I am really surprised at the youth or age of many of these people that are here. You know, she thought that it was an old people's cruise, and it's gotten that, but it's not necessarily the case.
Well, it's also cheaper for old people to buy a month at a time on a cruise ship than live in their own house. So.
Yeah. Saw that when Mom and I went to your mom and I went to the Mexican Riviera in January, and there were two people that were on the ship with us. We were saying, "Yep, we've been together 31 years," and they said, "Well, when you have 24 more, then think of us, because you know that's what we're doing." And they basically were, having come from Ohio, were spending weeks at a time on ships. And they had one that was canceled because a evangelical Christian music society had rented the whole boat. So they had to boot all of the people that were going to go on it. And
that must have been really expensive to rent.
And it was just for that. They said, yeah, they're closing down the casino next week. They're It's like, wow. Yeah, I guess you cater to
the one that pays the most.
Exactly. Those that are paying it. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, it was a great sail away. We went to Croatia. We went to Grand Split, and we had one excursion that we were looking forward to. Not enough people signed up, and
that was such a bullshit excuse, though.
Yeah,
I think it is more like
it might have been risk, maybe because they had only put it on after like about a month before we were going to go. And it was at that point that I decided, no, we don't need to go to Kirka National Park and see these Dink Do waterfalls. Sabinik Do. Anyway, because it was just going to be packed. We are going to get there at 11:30. Everybody and their second cousin would be crawling through the place. So there'd be no taking pictures where there wasn't somebody's shadow or somebody's arm or
well, I mean, it was like
photo bombing.
I would say Venice, though, you knew that because it was a tourist town. So it wasn't surprising to see the people. But yeah, I mean, if I want to take a nice landscape shot and there's a sea of humans on the lower half on the parts of 3, and it's like, well, okay, there's humans covering a third of it. Then it's like kind of like architect, and then kind of the thing at the top. But the humans are taking all the attention.
Yeah. So we didn't get to go on our Cetina River rafting excursion.
I was so upset about that. I don't know who's
You're popular. It sounded like it came from that side.
No, it's one of my phones over there.
Okay. Yeah, it was disappointing. But then we decided that we were just going to walk into Split.
Keep going.
Yep. And we went ahead and walked in, and then we found some places where we could do pay for a couple of the possible things, the baptismal, the crypt, and the bell tower, I think it was. Well, we didn't do the bell tower, but the actual cathedral. Just amazing, ornate, gold inlaid, different pieces in the architecture, and was just amazing to look at. So we walked back out. We had some I think we had some gelato in one of the areas and just kept walking around. And then we went back to the ship. The kids went back out to go to the Christmas shop that they had found.
No, that was one where you and Leah and I went out.
But that was after the Christmas shop.
No. It was
because we went.
It was family the first time. Then I think either me and Leah went out.
Yes.
The second time, right. And then the third time is while we're coming back from the second, because I'm trying to be less socially awkward and actually like talk to people. And she's like, my sister was like, "Oh my God, it says Christmas shop," and she's like, "Oh, where is it? This and that." So it was just me. I walked up to Leah. I'm like, "I love your bag. I love the color and this and that, but where's the Christmas shop so I can go get one?" Kind of thing. And she's like, "Oh, it's over in this area."
We had been right nearby it.
It was just across there's a bookstore and a cool medieval, like Renaissance stone, like area, like a courtyard. And it was just left of that at the end. And so that's where me and Leah got in. We told Mom and Dad about the Christmas store. And then
I think it was when we were coming back from jumping that you guys decided.
Yeah, because it was when we were swimming. No.
It was walking back from that.
Yeah, I think it was when we were walking back.
Yeah, we were just near the ship, and yeah, so I stand corrected. So yes, they went out 3 times. I stayed back, went to our cabana.
You went up to your cabana to get your Bahama Mamas on.
My cabana. I had heard, well, when we went in January, my wife and I, because the CDC in January had basically said, do not cruise. Because Omicron was doing its nasty bit, plus the various B5, B12,
whatever,
B19. Anyway, so we had our choice. We went up to level 11, and we just had our own little cabana area. Anytime we wanted to, it was always open. So we just enjoyed that. And I thought
you just didn't have your cabana crew until like what,
right.
6 a.m.
No, there you might have a waiter go by, but pick up stuff, but they wouldn't ask you unless you hailed them.
Oh, so yeah, for us it got to the point that honestly, Holland America, if you ever listen to this, that crew that helped us on the cabana was so good. Because everyone else, they assumed we knew. I didn't know on their app you could review people live.
Right.
And one of them, his name was RC.
RC.
He sat me down and explained it, and I explained to the whole family. And then every time he does something good, we would always just pull out the app. So
RC and Reggie, and
I forgot his.
Lyle?
No. We're forgetting the shorter one with the buzz cut. But either way, it was a whole crew,
Yeah.
and it was amazing. And it was one of those. They got to the point. They always knew if Bruce's glass was empty, they would just take his card and go get him another drink.
It was a wonderful thing. However, I certainly tested the limits of my family's endurance of my semi lack of sobriety.
You just okay. To be fair, it was the last 2 days, and you decided to drink half of the Stolich Nyla in 2 days, and then your whole bottle of wine too, plus the champagne they gave us for that one sail away, and your Bahama Mamas in between.
It was fun.
It was very fun.
It was fun. Anyway, let's move back to Cabanas. They're very wonderful, and you really must consider it. We were the only ones that really were there most of the day, almost 7 days a week. There was another group that was there.
There was that couple, but it was because his wife was not able to move, so they rented the.
Oh, that was like grandma or something like that. Yeah. They were in the corner spot, but we had next to the corner spot, and we kept things lively for the guys. They said, C Day is the only day that people completely buy out the cabanas, and they were just so excited that we'd go up there and just sit and look and read. And there was one afternoon where I did my Bahama Mama thing and then passed out on the couch. They had to poke me like a sleeping bear. And Bruce, we got to leave now. Okay.
I'll put the stuff away.
No, I didn't say that. They were surprised the next morning to see the 2 lounge chairs that you can sun yourself outside of the cabana were put together as they're supposed to be. They were pulled into our cabana. The table that sits there has to be on top of all of the cushions that are flattened. And then the chairs are stacked. And I had looked at the other ones, how they had put them together before I passed out. And so I just made sure that in case their supervisors, which, it seemed like petty lords themselves, would come and look. It's like, why didn't you fix this before you left? Because the guy was asleep.
It doesn't matter.
We didn't want to rouse the bear. So, but they poked the bear anyway, and he only growled.
He was like, me. But, yeah, honestly, the whole experience on the cruise ship was, I don't like saying it, but it was truly the royal treatment. But it also felt like it wasn't like oppressing to the people, the crew members either. Okay, from my perspective, there could be a whole underground culture of that they're just forced to be like Disneyland happy, but we don't know about it.
And so from Grand Split, we went to Corcula, which is reputed as the birthplace of Marco Polo. It's also in Croatia. And we got to walk through the stone castle there. And then we swam in the Adriatic waters. Had a nice afternoon. Got Mama in the water too. And
yeah, peer pressure, because we totally did the jumping, and it was because the note to the kayaking earlier we were supposed to do. I bought a GoPro with a point of view headset and everything, so we could film it and share it. And I was kind of like, well, I guess I could take the GoPro to the water to show Mom what she missed out on. And honestly, I got some great shots on that.
Absolutely.
But then that's where I was showing her, and then Leah looks at my mother and was just like, "So are you going to come join us or what next time?" She's like, "Okay."
So she did. And that was great. The next was a sea day. Then we ended up in Mykonos. Leah was antsy and wanted to get off the boat, and we were tardy. So she went off and then went off to the right of the pier in Mykonos, went to look at the windmills. And then
I want to say honestly, though, other than the architect and the windmills, there was not much going on there.
we didn't sign up for any excursions.
There wasn't really any interesting. Well, I think they were all sold out too.
Well, yeah,
but it was mostly just a guy riding on a bike around the place.
And there's like Jeeps, and you can go to a beach and swim, and it's gold sand beach, so it's different. So it just wasn't that it was noteworthy adventurous type. It's mostly just for parties. We did get I bought some items for my wife, a nice dress that she loves to wear around. It's very nice and green. And there was something else with that you had suggested that I get for her, and I did.
It was pants, I believe.
Pants.
Like a very loose fitting.
Good.
But,
so those were that. Josh, at my promptings, tried to lift up a 14-foot long marble pillar that had fallen over at the dock we were at, and he said, "No."
That was at least 2,000 pounds. Might have been more, 2 tons.
But it's been sitting there, and it just looked amazing. I mean, marble just alone is extraordinary. Mykonos. So we liked it. We got some pictures as we were doing sail away. Then we went to Rhodes, and after Mykonos, I had my pedicure, and that was fun. And then the next day they had their appointments because we had signed up late. So I went on an excursion to look at the island and the Grand Master's Castle. And so I did that excursion, went to the top of the island there, and then came back down and walked through the Grand Master's Castle and all the way down. And then I walked back to the ship because they were going to continue doing something. And I was like, nah, I don't need to. Then the kids said, okay, it's time for us to go. So we walked the whole way, all the way into the lower area, walked through the streets up to the Grand Master's Castle. I bought us tickets to go through some of the different areas, museum and whatnot. We walked through that. And I guess we unknowingly, Josh could say more because he wandered off by himself. We were looking at play settings for the Game of Thrones and didn't really know it.
Oh, yeah. So in Croatia, it was, I forgot which castle, but it's one of the original people. But then, and the other place was like, oh, this is like so-and-so's village with all the castles. Yeah, it was just interesting. The Grandmaster's Castle, though, was very intriguing. For me, it was okay. At least the courtyard, the first one we went to, they have found some old trebuchet stones that were polished and smoothed to a circle, and they piled them up in all the cannons, and then it was like all the different pottery, and that was cool. It was more interesting in the stairs, how they architect that. But then, yeah, going to the Grandmaster's chamber, castle, the castle was daunting, and it again, one of those, I don't know which one, but it reminded me of just a classic like fantasy scene where you're approaching this huge castle and you're like, oh my God, I'm screwed if they attack me.
One of the things that I did see in the dry moats that they had on the north side that the kids and I didn't get to go is murder holes. They're just slits with 45-degree angles on either side. So inside you can look out and see, about 200 and at least 180 degrees. If somebody's moving, you can fire arrows at them in behind the stone. The round shot was from when the Ottomans, those pesky Turks, 11 miles offshore, finally made it over, and they were assaulting the castle to take over the island for a bit. And then those were just left there. So that's where they gathered them up and put them in piles. But the amount of force to get those things to launch.
Oh,
anyway,
is ungodly. And then those stones too. I went and tried to pick one up because I was following a strongman YouTuber, and he talks about the Athens stones, which was just catapult shots. And he said an average Athens stone should be like 80 to 100 pounds. If done right, you can pick it. And I was like, okay, like 80 to 100 pounds. I picked up like 150 pounds worth of 50 cal bullets, and having my hand sliced from the plastic, I can easily do that. I picked it up and I'm immediately just like, huh? This is way more than 100 pounds. And I'm sitting here going like, man, the people back then must have been just naturally just jacked for the amount of weight they had to move. Because I'm like, there's no way a normal human nowadays can move that kind of thing.
So it was the Grandmaster. Let's do a little history. The Grandmaster was the person that was in charge of the people who were helping people that were going on the Crusades, the trips to Jerusalem and things in the early centuries after Christ died. And so this was where the Knights of the Hospital were there to help those who were sick or needed help along the way. So that is your history lesson for Rhodes. Then we went to Rhodes, Ephesus, and we had another split up of the party. Never split the party.
Yeah.
Well, we were tardy again, and basically our bus was ready to go. And Gina and I were the last to make it to, we first were trying to get off to get to the bus, but we had to go and check in. And the person at the check-in basically trotted us out with our stickers. And we were the last on the bus, with Leah getting her sticker as well, finally. And then Josh had gone back and wasn't able to make the bus, but he got to do an extraordinary other thing and was not bored to tears by our tour guide, who was nice and informative, but slow
and dry, from what I could gather.
Dry.
He was drier. He was drier than the Sahara Desert.
No, drier than the Ephesus sun in midday.
Oh. Yeah, for me, because it was that morning was pure chaos. Me and Leah got off thinking we'll just go ahead. Then at a certain point, we realized Mom and Dad weren't coming, so we ran back. And then they were doing something, and then come to realize they all had the epiphany. Oh, we're supposed to go to floor 2 in the ballroom to meet up. And at that point, I lost Leah, and I'm not sure what's going on. And so I ran to my room, grabbed my phone, messaged them, and essentially my mom replied and was like, "Oh, are you gonna make it? Like, you have like minutes." I'm like, "Mom, I'm on like floor 8. Even if I wanted to get to you, it's gonna be too late. Just go on. I'll enjoy myself." And so essentially I do. They take off, do their thing. I go through the bazaar, and then get to the city. It reminded me more like the classy Hollywood where I was walking. All the drivers were hustlers. It was really funny. And I still am, but I'm very cautious about burning and all that. So I was wearing my UV sleeves on my arms, and I had my buff rag to protect my neck, and my giant sun hat that like clearly it says I'm a tourist. But also I was wearing sunglasses, so it's like, is he a tourist or is he a terrorist? kind of thing. And then at a certain point, as I'm going to a castle, this one driver's like, "Hey, I'm not making any sales. I'm bored. Do you want to just go to Mother Mary's house kind of thing, free of charge?" And immediately in my head, I'm like, this is some like shit where it starts the whole Liam Neeson Taken thing. I'm not going to take it. It's just like, no, I'm good. So I keep walking and get to like a little cute fish market on this bridge that they built to Pigeon Island. And as I'm going down, different people, one guy was like trying to sell me a 3-hour cruise on his honestly gorgeous wooden pirate ship looking thing. But I didn't have cash, so I kept going. And I get to the Pigeon Islands castle, and there's a cripple in his wheelchair, speedy wheelchair. Clearly it's not American. This thing's ripping everywhere. And he rolls up to me and he goes, "Hey, do you want to take a photo with the parrot?" And there was a random parrot in the corner. I was like, oh, I don't have cash. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't afford it. And he's like, it's okay. And I was like, hey, like, props for you for like not letting your disability hold you back and pursuing entrepreneur stuff. And he's like, you know what's great about being a cripple in Turkey? And I'm like, what? He's like, oh, you Americans feel bad and give me money. And I was like, yeah. Instead of us. And that's where his brother comes around. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, before he was the expensive one of the family. Now he's the breadwinner. I said, finally, he's paying off his debt being a cripple. But and then that's where then the guy in the chair was like, oh, there's this one thing though, if having all this money, what's that? Like, you don't know what to do with it? He's like, no, all the women throw themselves at you. And I'm like, that sounds like a terrible problem. Like, oh, all these beautiful women just throwing themselves at you. And he's like, they only want my money. And he like kind of like jokingly like drives away on his wheelchair. And the brother's like, the ones he says no to, I take them though. I was like, again, winning the bread for the family.
Wowzer.
But then I explored the castle. That was really cool. I just asked the guy in the wheelchair, hey, is there any that I'm not seeing any signs even in like your language, like, hey, tourists or locals, don't do this. And he's like, obvious, if a door's locked, don't open it. My dumbass took it as, okay, if it's locked, I won't open it. Well, I saw this cool like ritual / Colosseum thing. It was like the church, but also right next to it was where the gladiators fought to their death. So I was like, oh, I want to see that place. I scoured that place for like an hour and a half, looking at the maps. Finally, I get to like this patio wood thing where everyone's like, all the local ladies are doing yoga on. And I realized, I'm like, wait, the map says it's here. And that's where I look next back to the church and I see like this dome. And I was like, I wonder. So I go to the dome and I find this just random piece of heavy plexiglass laying on the ground. It wasn't locked. I lifted and I looked in and I'm like, oh, I found it. But that's like at least 20 feet. And I don't think that'll be a really awkward conversation with the locals. Why the hell are you down there? It wasn't locked. So, but yeah, that was so much fun. Like the dogs were super cute. And it was like this little big mama cat and like 6 little kittens, and one of them kept following me around, and the mama cat was pissed. Was really pissed that the kitten was following me around. And finally I kind of like looked at the kitty and I was like, all right, go back to mama or she's gonna maul my face off kind of thing. But yeah, it was fun. And for you guys though, for your Ephesus one, I want to say, other than the heat, was it pretty good?
Absolutely. Again, marble is just something marvelous to look at. Sorry for the almost pun there.
Almost.
But just 30% of Ephesus has been, and this is Ephesus 3. Evidently, there were 5 of them. But I'll just talk about this one. 30% excavated because it's professors of architecture that actually do the excavating very carefully and keeping all the nifty tidbits that they find. And so basically the last 50 years, 30% has come out from the earth. And so back another 150 years from now, it should all be exposed, perhaps even replaced, in some way. Moving on to Athens, being replaced is certain parts of the Parthenon, the Acropolis, being that there's some missing pieces. They're replacing it with plastic.
No, they're replacing it with marble.
Well, some marble, but if they can't get marble in the shape that's missing, they'll do plastic for now. But they're working on trying to get it all marble. Because
when you have to walk up these super slick marble stairs, luckily we didn't fall on those because we learned our lesson back at the crypt. Especially Josh, I apparently had this really long dramatic fall. And for me, it was just like a little boop on my butt. But so I was super cautious going up the stairs. But that was the one thing I noticed when we went in. I don't know if you might have saw it, but didn't like register it. There was a whole yard of men with their Dremel tools and grinders cutting the exact dimensions out of the marble to replace it, because that's where one of the guys, when I was leaving, I was lost. I said, well, what are they doing? Why are they doing that? And he's like, oh. And then he points to the gate that we first came in. He's like, you notice there's the off cue, there's the brown, then the brand new white one. I'm like, yeah. He said, those marble guys are cutting it exactly so when they put it in, it's like it was whole again. And I told him, like, that must be really expensive. He's like, actually, here in Greece, there's a lot of marble masons, so they're a dime a dozen. I'm like, oh, so it's like carpenters in California. There's dime a dozen. They cost a lot, but you can find someone eventually that's cheap.
And we had stayed at the Grand Hyatt when we got to Athens. There was a bit of a misadventure with Holland America. When we had signed up, we were going to stop at Rome, which is one of the ports where you can get a shuttle to a hotel, and then a shuttle to the airport. Well, I had convinced my my travel advisor that I should have the same package for Greece. So he put it in, and that's how it was up until because we signed up in December of 2020, up until June of 2022. It was on my itinerary, and then suddenly it dropped off. So as we were about to exit, we come to find out we don't have a shuttle, and we're supposed to be going off independently, and we were going to be staying in Athens for 2 days on our own. And I said, no, that's not what we had signed up for. So they gave us the way of turning it in, which we've done since, of getting our own ride, staying at the hotel. They arranged the hotel to have a day for us. I made it into 2 days. And then taxi. So we'd turn in the receipts and get reimbursed.
I think your wife recently
it's already done.
I think she emailed it and everything.
Yeah. So we're good with that. So the Grand Hyatt, really nice, strange neighborhood, but good accommodations. The trip over to the next valley, the Valley of Athens itself, is just completely inundated with lighthouses. I mean, all the way from the port to the northern side, to the western side, to the eastern shoreline, just amazingly packed. And up until recently, it was like, back in the centuries past, 4,000 people, but then it just blossomed, and it's just amazing. But the airport in the other valley it was quite a trip to get over there in the dark and then wait until our actual flight.
I'm just glad I called in that reservation for that taxi, because that would have really been awkward. So apparently in Greece, you can hail a taxi, but 9 times out of 10, they're already booked for something. So that's where the hotel was telling us, oh, we'll just book it in advance. And we said, well, we need a cargo van, because we have a lot of suitcases, and we had to buy 2 taxis to get to the place. And she said, oh, yeah, it'll be like 90 euros, this and that. And I was like, cool. And then essentially, that was one of those. It was the best decision we made.
Yeah. Other than the fact that I hadn't realized that our flight was not at 9 o'clock anymore. During our cruise, it had changed, and I had not looked at my emails. And so we had to wait there until our flight. And then we took the flight over from Athens to what was intended to be Dulles International Airport. Just before we got to Dulles, we started circling, and I knew we were circling because it was a holding pattern.
Yeah.
I was aware that we were doing a holding pattern. And then they basically announced after 2 circles, there's a thunderstorm over Dulles now. And
it's really bad.
we need to land, because we can't circle for an hour with as little fuel as we have, crossing from essentially Asia Minor to North America over Europe. So we need to land at Baltimore. So we land at Baltimore. They're going to get refueled. The thunderstorm within minutes was coming over us. And so we had to wait that out as the wind blew sideways with the rain. And then we got back up in the air and went to Dulles, and we had missed our flight. So we went ahead, changed our shuttle back from the airport till 2 a.m. And we also got a new flight at 10:30. And the sun was finally setting. I think it was in Baltimore. We saw it rise in the Athens area and set in Baltimore. It was a long day.
Honestly, that was one of those more painful rides homes, because it is especially like the Swedish airline one. The seats were not terrible, but you could tell they actually put like effort into the seats for comfort, so you don't get your legs damaged. Yeah. The other airline, I think it was United, we had
Delta.
No, it was United. Okay. We never did Delta.
Yeah, that's right. Delta changed out. We would have gone to Zurich, Switzerland, and then from Zurich we would have gone to LA, but that was changed.
But the United Airline seats, oh my God, they were damaging. It took me like 3 days to recover from that. My legs were just swollen at my ankle.
In my video that Josh had recorded when we were walking through Venice, I believe it's called A Hot Day in Venice, and the Bruce Locksmith or One BC Bolton YouTube channel, you can just see me stomping along. I am just like hammered dookie.
Yeah. Well, and it was amusing because I had my GoPro for the Venice part, and I'm following him. And yeah, you could. I'm trying to like angle it so you can't see him stumping, but it didn't work.
Yeah, it was pretty harsh, and I didn't even realize I was thumping along like a troll.
You looked like an ogre.
Yeah,
you were like, ugh.
Anyway, that was that. So we finally uncomfortable. Well, actually, we got on the second United flight from Dulles. It was 10:30 at night. We just passed out. Each had, except Josh and I had some seats. You know, he was on the aisle, I was at the window, so we could stretch our legs out if we needed to.
But it was actually like economy plus, and the seats were actually like nice.
Nice. Leah and Gina got their own set of seats so they could stretch out, and we were glad for that. And then literally got into LA at 1:45. I had the nicest guy from Super Shuttle, who happens to live nearby. And
yeah, that was the interesting part.
He said, I only take people who are coming in or going to the airport, because otherwise you get people who are drunk and you know, or drugs or whatever, and you don't know what they're going to do. But with people coming in from the airport, you know, they're at least tired or excited. And so, yeah, we had him talking pretty good all the way home. And that essentially was our trip. It was a great lot of fun. And if you have a chance to go to Europe, I would highly suggest it. I now have gone to Alaska in 2017, to the Eastern Caribbean in 2019, the Mexican Riviera in 2022, and now Europe in later 2022. Many times to Ensenada and Catalina and whatnot. That's been our go-to for most of our cruises up till. And I'm being looked at by quite an ancient Chinese crested powder puff dog here, and I think he's telling us it's time for a nap.
Yeah. He's like, Hoopman, you've been sitting there way too long. So on that note, it's been absolutely fun. If you guys enjoyed this and you made it this far, feel free to hit us up. I'll have the links to his website and his YouTube, and hit me up. Just tell us if we did a good job or not, if it was boring, et cetera, and
comment, like, subscribe to the Josh Bolton Show.
It really helps me out, especially if you're on Apple. They start promoting me if you subscribe. So.
And also like him on on Apple. Leave a review.
Yeah.
Also, his Patreon. I would love to share company with people as his Patreon. So you get some nifty things. He's got a lot of ideas. So
yeah, I'm gonna restructure it so also it's not like ridiculously expensive on certain things. So yeah, this dog is giving my dad some mad eye. So enjoy. Talk to you later. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations. You made it to the end. You're a awesome person. Not many make it here. So, being the awesome person that you are, can you do me one more awesome favor? Can you rate and review this on whatever podcast services you're using? If you do it on Apple and you leave an actual written review, I have a thing on my website. I will take your written review and post it for all to see. Congratulations, you're permanently sealed on my site. Otherwise, I am trying to do YouTube more and live streaming. I will try to put as many of the YouTube links in the description of the show as I can. So give your boy some extra help over on YouTube. Watch my videos. I just mute it and change the channel, change the window or something. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for being awesome and see you next time.